in the book that the divine counsel is something we just kind of skim over. It's in the Bible, but we're not really going to spend much time thinking about it, talking about it, but it's there. And then to dig in, but then the issue becomes how's he viewing the scripture to defend it? What context is he taking? And that's where all our doctrine bleeds into it. Yeah. And it becomes, I tell everyone I'm a spiritual mutt. I don't think any of us have pure doctrine because none of us are God. And so we don't completely understand him clearly. And so I am just one that I'm like, this is interesting stuff. I'm not going to take a man's book and make my personal doctrine based on it. But I'm going to sit there and be like, this is something to think about, explore a little more. So that's what it left me with is I got to explore this a little more.
So I had fun. I went down the deep dive of doing some of the YouTube videos about it, where you hear some of his stuff. And he cracks me up, though, because I think he's passed away recently. But he's just kind of he's out there with his plaid shirt, and he's just kind of like, oh, yeah. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I haven't decided if I'm going to read the other ones yet, though. I read the Supernatural, and then I was watching some of the YouTube videos with it. So yeah. I thought those were good.
It's interesting.
Very good. All right, so what else you have been going on lately?
Nothing crazy. So kind of cool thing, Big B Coffee in our area, they actually, for the month of February, were giving out from 7 to 11 a.m. free coffee. Just as a thank you, any 16-ounce drink. So that was kind of cool to see a company just be like, hey, here's free coffee. They did not pay me to say that. I guess they just gave me free coffee, and so I said it.
So what's your drink of choice at Big B?
That's tough. Put it anywhere. It's usually an Americano with oat milk.
An Americano with oat milk.
Yep.
See, I always joke, sometimes Big B will send out coupons. So I always say I never feel more manly than when I walk into a Big B Coffee and say, I would like to have a large Butter Bear frozen drink. I have a coupon.
Yeah, no, I don't get into those. I mean, adding sugar and a ton of stuff to my coffee never is why I go to get coffee. So
yeah, but if you're going to Big B, get all the drinks with all the sugar and all the woo.
Hey, I don't judge you if you do. I just don't.
Welcome to the For You podcast, where we share inspiring stories, navigate life and culture, and highlight church moments. Tune in for uplifting conversations and celebrations of faith, one story at a time.
Very good. All right. Well, we have somebody else here with us today.
We do. I'm excited.
We are joined by Don Pedde. Don, welcome to the party, my man.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
All right. So now, Don, I've obviously known you for a very, very long time. Much to your chagrin. And we've served in ministry in multiple contexts in multiple places, had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
So basically, we're excited to have you here to talk about you and the things you're involved in and the things you're excited about. So give us a quick overview. Tell us about Don Pedde.
Okay. Well, Pastor Robert and I talked about this getting ready for today. So I'll try to do the overview, but you guys stop me if you want more detail. All right.
Sounds good.
So I grew up in a Christian home. And not far from here. I grew up in the Detroit area. Good parents. No home is perfect, but I had a great home.
Okay.
Discipline, love, support. A lot of people hear me describe it and they think, but it was a good home. I was an active kid, so I wasn't rebellious, but I was active. So my parents had to rein me in, and that was good. I grew up in the church. With the internet the way it is, I looked this up and confirmed it. I was born on a Monday, and I don't know about parents these days if they would do it, but I was in church on Sunday when I was 6 days old. So that kind of tells you my upbringing. I was raised in the church, and we were very involved. We were always there. I did stuff growing up, and so that was part of my upbringing.
Now, what church did you grow up at?
I grew up at Van Dyke Baptist. So it's very conservative.
Is that still around? I've never heard of it.
They probably merged. A lot of them have merged over the years.
Okay.
They are still here. They moved and merged, and they're still around in Warren, like around 10 and Ryan.
Do they still go by the name Van Dyke?
They did. They actually merged with another church. They changed the name to reflect both, and then after several years, they were able to just go back to the name Van Dyke Baptist.
It makes sense. It's the road it's on, so why not call it a church that?
I was just going to say, that's the interesting part. It was actually on 9 Mile Road.
Oh, that doesn't make any sense now.
I don't. But if you go back in Warren's history, South Warren was Van Dyke. That was the name of the
Oh, gotcha.
unincorporated town before Warren was a city. So
There's a girl I went to high school with. She always went to 12 and Ryan Baptist Church. So I'd always ask her, so where's that at? I even reconnected with her. We would shop at the same Meijer. I'd see her in the morning, I'm like talking to her like, hey, I always think of you whenever I drive by and I see the church and go, oh yeah, I remember that joke I used to make.
Yep. So that was growing up for me. I always think about kids that grow up in the church. Christianity needs to become their own.
Now, did you go to private school, public school, homeschool?
Public school through junior high.
Okay.
I went to a Christian high school. And I thought about this a lot. I thrived in both of those. I loved going to church. I loved the stuff we did. Christian high school was good for me. I loved being there. I know some kids that don't. They go and they want to go back to public school for sports or whatever, but both of those were a good fit. For me,
what's your favorite subject?
That's tough. Now, if you want to talk high school,
that's what we're just in high school right now. We're getting to who Don Pedde is eventually.
My favorite subject in high school was chemistry.
Okay.
I loved the teacher. I loved that we could sit on paper and write it down and figure it out, and then go in the lab and it would do what you thought it was going to do. And some of it was cool. Like one of the basic experiments was, I still remember, this blue liquid called silver sulfate. And if you put the right chemical in there, I think it was copper, you could figure out the charges and the ions or what they were going to do, electrons, and you could put it in there and it's silver coated.
Wow.
And it's like, that was just cool. I just love doing that kind of stuff. So, and we had a great teacher. He's still around. And
Is he still teaching at the school?
He is. I think he's just retired, but which
that is some commitment to be a teacher for that long.
Yes. So very cool. So I loved it. It was a great thing. Between those, church and school, I think kids growing up in that have to make a personal decision. And for me, I really made a decision to follow Christ when I was, best I can remember, 13-ish, junior high, and I was committed. I enjoyed that and loved being in the atmosphere of what the Bible had to say.
So you were raised in a Christian home, Christian loving parents, just kind of immersed in the church your whole life. You get to about 13 or so, and then you're like, okay, this Jesus thing, he's for me. I'm all in on this.
Yep.
Okay, now did this happen? Did you go to junior high camp and you have, the emotional altar call and the just as I am without one plea, all the good old fashioned stuff?
And actually, no.
Oh,
it was
the narrative.
Actually, I remember moments of in my room when I was falling asleep, just thinking about it and thinking seriously. And so I went after, I don't know why I didn't ask my parents, but I went after the pastor. I said one particular day, it's like, I'm not leaving till I get to talk to him about this. And so I sought him out and he was busy. And I said, Mom and Dad, give me a minute. And I waited so I could, and wanted to talk it all through with him to make sure that it was mine. I was following.
Was there anything you remember from meeting the pastor? Like, were you scared to meet him? Were you nervous? Did he help you? Like, put yourself in that 13-year-old Don Pedde.
No, I don't think I was nervous because I got to that point that I had to get it straight and I wanted to talk to him. So it was, like I said, it wasn't a particular service, a particular thing, but God was working in my heart and I just needed to find the answer.
That's awesome. So you have this come to Jesus moment. And obviously we know we're here in this podcast. So You've been walking with him. What happened after that though? Like what was some of the journey that maybe defined your faith or defined you?
Well, back to Andrew's point. After that, I did go to camp every year and I love that. And I think back to it so often. I think it was being away from the city. You know, we actually went down to North Carolina. I love the area, being away, being at camp. I love the atmosphere. And it was really good for me. I just drank it all in. And so I feel like I grew, and I could look year after year. I could see what God was doing in my life. And part of that was just the passion for the Bible. I can't remember when it was, but at some point I thought, I want to work with the Bible. I mean, if that's the book, and I believe it is, what better thing is there to study than that? And so I didn't know how or where, but I thought somehow I want to be involved with what the Bible has to say. So I remember that in high school, didn't make any decisions about it at that point, but that I had that.
You were
passion.
Drawn to this book and you just wanted to dig into it more. Your faith was really pushing you there.
Yeah.
Now, did you have many opportunities? Because again, similar church backgrounds. Did you have opportunities to teach? Like, did you teach, give the devotional every once in a while in your youth group? Did you get a chance to teach younger kids in Sunday school? What was your first real bug? Like, you knew you wanted to teach the Bible, but was there an opportunity you got, like, where you realized, not only do I like to do this, or not only am I good at this, I like to do it and I want to do it?
I don't know that I had too many formal, but I do remember there were times when we were with a group of kids and they would ask for testimonies. And so let me back up. There were certain things that happened. I still remember one of them was a guy came and talked about memorizing the Bible. And so I got paper, got a notebook out, and it was memorize and review. And so I went to it. I memorized a verse, check, and review it daily, weekly, so that you really got it. So I worked this program and I did it every day. And so at a youth meeting of some kind, they said, anybody got a testimony? And so I got up and I said, this is what I've been doing and this is what I've been thinking about. And I just shared something. And I remember after somebody said, dude, you should have given the devotional tonight. I mean, you just stood up and put it out there, And so, so no formal things, but I just shared what God was doing, and people made comments to me about like, wow, that was just so helpful. And I thought, well, all I did was talk, so yeah. So I think that kind of was the start of it.
So then what did you do after high school? What was your what happened?
Went off to Christian college. You could say the Christian bubble. I was still in the bubble. I did, my first job was at McDonald's. And so I did work along some crazy people. And so I was out there in that. But I went off to a Christian college.
McDonald's. What did you do? Flip burgers? Work the register?
No, I hated working the register. I flipped the burgers. I love breakfast. I love making all the Egg McMuffins and...
Wait a minute. Hold on. You're a social guy. You like to talk.
Absolutely.
How is it that you did not like working the register?
Man, you got to go back. I don't even know how many years, 40, 50 years almost. You had to make change.
Oh.
So it was on the fly. I did it once, and it's like, somebody gave you this, and I got to...
And they didn't just swipe a card, go to a kiosk, that kind of thing.
Or even back before that, it was like, give you, how much is it? Total is $20 bill. Ding, 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 ding. And here's your change. No, it's like, here's what it is. Here's what they gave you. I got to figure this out. And if you make a mistake, the customer's going to be mad at you. And I said, let me flip the burgers. And we had way more fun back there anyway. So,
I don't want to take us on a tangent, but that's why I think sometimes we were smarter before than we are now.
Oh, yeah.
We know more now.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just the simple things of doing math in your head.
Yep.
We can pull out a phone and do it on it. We can ask Siri to do math for us.
Even more serious, I can tell you my grandparents' phone number when they lived down in Detroit.
Yep.
That they had for years. I can tell you the phone number I had. I can't tell you anyone else's phone number. If you said, call Don, call Michael, call you, couldn't tell you. No idea.
Yeah.
No idea. We used to memorize things and know things.
Oh, yeah.
What about roadways before GPSs?
Oh, yeah.
I made a horrible decision today. I thought, you're supposed to create new neural pathways. I'm not going to be reliant on my GPS. So as I was driving to appointment, all of a sudden I saw construction. I was like, uh-oh, I might have made a mistake. Then as I pull up, my exit to get off was closed. I had to go 3 miles out of my way, and luckily I looped my way back. So, the joys of, learning how to use your GPS and being too reliant on it. I should have been reliant on my GPS.
I mean, how many people know that there's actual like significance between like 95 or like 70? The zeros and the 5 have different meanings on how they run. Like nobody in our generation knows that now.
No, I just hop on the freeway.
And type it in Waze or Google.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
Well, even the old days of when you go on vacation, you'd go to AAA and they give you I think it's called triptych.
The triptych.
Where you'd go through and they'd highlight it all. And now you think of that and you're like, what? So did you use triptych when you went down to your Christian college down south? Do you notice that stellar return I just did there? That was well done.
Actually,
Andrew's very proud of himself.
I'm always proud of myself.
I was a map guy. So triptychs I didn't like because they all face the same direction. I want the big picture. So I want to see where we're going and then get the details in there. But
Hold on. So because I know a bit of the story. So you went down south for school, down in South Carolina to start.
Yep.
And then at the school that will be unnamed. And then didn't your family move down south with you at some point?
Halfway through,
okay.
2 years in, my parents went to work at a college in Florida. And so...
you're allowed to say the city. What city was it at? Oh, it's Pensacola. It's interesting. Okay.
So they gave me the option. They said, you're halfway through. My brother was a senior, so he finished where we were, but I was halfway through, and I thought, I'd go either way. I thought, you know what? It'd be more fun being here all year round. So I transferred.
Well, I think about that this time of year. I mean, it's winter right here as we're recording this, and I would much rather be down south in Florida. But anyways, continue.
Oh yeah. So I
don't blame you for that decision.
I was a Bible major and a music minor, and the music part is what got me into, not trouble, but got me into all the opportunities. So I ended up traveling for the college, doing promo, singing, eventually led to some speaking and that kind of thing. And so I thrived in that atmosphere. I loved doing it. I poured myself into it. And so it was just a passion of mine. So I did that through college, and then I ended up staying on, had the opportunity to stay and be a graduate assistant, work on my master's, did some teaching, stuck my toe in the water. That went well. And so after a couple of years doing my grad work, I was hired on full-time and then ended up teaching there for another 7 years full-time.
So what did you teach there?
I taught Bible and related topics. So that included archaeology and geography and customs of the Bible. It included survey classes, some books of the Bible, church history. So I did quite a few.
Did you get to do any of the Bible doctrine courses? Teach those?
I did not do Bible doctrines.
When you were in school, did you have the little flashcards that you had to memorize all this stuff?
Oh yeah.
Good times.
Yes, it definitely was there.
So you go to school, and I call you Dr. Don. You got your PhD there too, right?
I did. While I was teaching full time, I worked on my doctorate and finished that.
Is that when you really discovered a love for teaching the Bible and teaching in that regard, or no?
Absolutely. I was thinking about that. Going to a Christian college, even though I was raised in the church and went to a Christian high school, I don't know if it was maturity for me or a combination of things, but Christian college was really good for me. Being away from home, part of it maybe. But I remember that I remember distinctly thinking, it wasn't I was wandering or questioning in a really bad way, but just for example, I remember thinking the Romans Road, which I grew up with, and I heard that and memorized it and how to present the gospel. And I thought, this is the gospel. And I remember thinking, who came up with this? Because it's a verse here and a verse there, and who came up with the Romans Road? So it's like, So I wanted to tear it apart and say, what is the gospel? Okay, 1 Corinthians 15. This is the core of the gospel. Well then, okay, well, if Christ is resurrected, okay, there's the core of the gospel. Well, what do you do with that? Well, we have to believe it and we have to accept it. Well, what do we do with that? Well, if you need a savior, that means you have to be a sinner to acknowledge that you need a savior. So I backed up and I ended up with the Romans Road.
You came right back to where you started.
Yeah, I came back to where I started, but it was good for me to say, where did this come from and why do we do this? And so even more making it my own. And I had real passion then for the Bible and making sure that I understood it. And so to share that with other people as well. So that kind of happened for me in college. And I remember, the lights just came on all over the place in college. So when I graduated with my bachelor's, I thought, I'm not ready to take a church or do whatever with it. So the opportunity to teach came up, and that's where I realized, this is a really good fit for me. Again, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the Bible, but I knew I wanted to do something.
So we can talk vocation because I feel that's like God's calling on our life. It's what we're really called to and where we can really use our gifting. And so let's fast forward a minute.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know you present day, Don. We're looking at Don back in college.
Sure.
And I know you and I get to share a lot because for those of you who may not know, Don is currently our head elder here at Fellowship. And so I've gotten to serve with him. First elder that I actually brought on too to our elder team when I got here. So I get to work with him in that sense. And I know that the crazy thing about your story is you do something completely different outside of the church to make money each day, right? And so what do you do now? Like, what is your career? So we were talking about you going to Bible college, just love for teaching, and now what do you do?
Well, I am a commercial appraiser, really trying to get the last pieces of my final license. I have a limited license now, but I do commercial properties. As we grow and mature and do life, we learn things about ourselves. And I would have never picked this out of a lineup of jobs.
I was gonna say, high school Don doesn't sound like he's picking of all the jobs. I'm gonna be a commercial appraiser.
What you're saying is that unlike every other college graduate, you did not apply what your degree was in for your future career.
We'll get to that. I still use it though. I still use it. But I love what I do. And what's funny is if you look back, we learn about our personalities. And probably if I took a quiz when I was 22, I wouldn't have seen this. But looking back, all the way back to chemistry, my favorite high school class, there was something about the details. Now, I'm not an analytical guy like some people, but I have this piece to my personality that I am an education prof in graduate school who said, but I see it. Think about it. He said, when you're in high school, you like chemistry. When you were in your Bible classes, what did you really like? Greek, Bible archaeology, and customs. Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's good. And he said, yeah, you were Bible, but you really dug into some of the analytical things. So even though I'm an outgoing person, I had that. So you can see that. So back up to current job, commercial appraising. Oh, there's so many details and there is analysis. And yeah, I have fun talking on the phone. I was on the phone with brokers today, like having good conversations, but then you take the pieces and it's fun to see how they fit together. So that's what I do for a living.
So I went to that because I know, and we'll get to it, how you're applying a lot of your teaching and a lot of your Bible skills, but something shifted from, hey, I'm Don and I'm teaching at college. I'm really content. This is what I'm really feeling called and passionate to do.
Yeah.
To life ends up in Michigan as a appraiser here, leading a church at Fellowship.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, piece I left out, when I finished my master's degree, I was married. And so I was married, and it was about 6 years in. And by the way, the woman that I married, on paper, I guess people say it that way a lot of times, it made sense. I was a Bible major and a music minor. She was a music major and a Bible minor. And it's like, oh yeah, this is a great fit. Well, it wasn't such a great fit. About 6 years in, she had an affair. And so at that point, and she was on staff as well. And so I had a good long talk with the president of the college, and he said, and it was a young school, and this had never happened before. And so he said, I'm not saying you can't continue to do what you're doing, but we weren't divorced. So he said, go work on your marriage. We'll see what happens. So I agreed and I left. I mean, it would have been easier to keep my job, but I agreed with him. I wasn't sure what to do at this point. And so I left teaching, which I loved doing. I enjoyed my classes, my students, my career, and moved to her home state up north, not Michigan. And I went from PhD and prof to 2 minimum wage jobs. And I couldn't help but think of Paul saying, I learned how to be content in different situations. It's like I'm in a good place there.
And you just keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
I'm learning to be content.
That's right.
I am learning to be content.
So yeah, it was, I couldn't even make ends meet.
So, but let's just pause there if
Yeah.
we're okay and kind of sit in this.
Sure.
Because I think that's a part of your story that a lot of people can relate to. I mean, I have conversations with people all the time who maybe have been through tough marriages, tough relationships. They're in tough job situations, they're grinding just to make ends meet at times. And so here you find yourself, you just lose your passion, what you thought this is what I'm made to do.
Yeah.
And you have a marriage that's in turmoil.
Yeah.
You now move to a different state without your family to be with her family.
Yeah.
And you're working now minimum wage jobs, trying to make. And so just take us to that moment if you're okay with that. Like, just what was it like? What were you feeling? What were you experiencing? What was your faith like with God? What were you and him wrestling with?
I'd be lying to say it was easy. It's one of those things looking back that I say I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I am a different person today, emotionally stronger and a lot of other things. But to be honest, I wouldn't want to go back there. But I look back on it and the other positive thing is God did so many amazing things. When life is comfortable, you can talk about trusting God and you can talk about steps of faith. But when you're in it, God doesn't need to show up when everything's good and you can pay all your bills. I mean, you hate to say it that way, but that's how we think. I mean, I don't need God to pay my bills. I'm good. But when you're in a tough situation, and for me, it was financial and relational and everything. So it was tough. And especially, I had no clue where I was going to land and what I was going to do. So that whole time, I'm working these minimum wage jobs, and I had in my mind, well, this is not the end. So I don't know where God's going to lead me, but I didn't want to be in this. I ended up in a factory making medical equipment. So it was an assembly line, but it was in a room like this at a table, just sitting there doing stuff. And there was one funny gal that I work with, just so funny. And she was talking about the work and she just said, there has to be more to life than this. And we all joked about it. It's like, yeah, you were brain dead by 9 o'clock in the morning, just doing your.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this.
Oh yeah. So, and again, if you wanted to take the time, I could tell you so many stories.
I know
about it.
Michael worked in a factory for a bit.
Yep.
I worked in a few factories. One of them was a fiberglass plant.
That's messy.
Yeah. They didn't give a lot of training, and they didn't explain that you need to wash your hands before you go to the bathroom and after. It was a very difficult time. Oh, yeah. Very rough.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So what happened? Did you end up getting divorced, or what happened there?
I how do I say it? I hung on. I tried to make things work for 2.5 years, but she was determined, and in this day of no fault divorce, there was a point where in New York State where we were, you can sign an agreement and wait for a year, which I thought was a good thing. I said, I'll agree to this because then there's more time that has to happen before you can get divorced. And so I agreed to that, but eventually that led to our divorce. And then I thought, I have no reason to stay in New York State. And so I looked at the map and I said, you know what, if you cut across Canada, Detroit's not too far away, and that's where I grew up. And so through just incredible circumstances, God brought me back here for a vacation, connected with some friends, and they said, dude, you're working for minimum wage? There's all kinds of opportunities in Detroit. And this was in a little town in New York State where the best things happening there were welfare and the maximum security prison, which I didn't want to be involved with either one of those.
Were you near Buffalo where they break tables before football games?
No.
Okay.
It was actually between Rochester and Syracuse.
Okay.
Those are the two biggest cities, but still a small town. And so I had to drive to get to the jobs I was already working on. And so they said, do this. And I said, I've been at this for 2.5 years, and I can just now pay my minimums. I can just get by with my 2 jobs. I said, if I can get one job that I can pay my bills, I'd be happy. And so one of my buddies, this was one of the, I wouldn't call it a miracle, but just amazing things. Buddy of mine worked for an electronics company, copier repair. And he said, my boss announced that they need to hire some people. And he said, let me know. So I mentioned your name and said, he's really good with people. He said, would you be interested? And he said, if he can pass an electronics test, we'll hire him. So my buddy faxed me some information. I went to the library and checked out a couple of books on electronics, and I passed the electronics test.
Nice.
And so, the guy with a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in Bible, which is the arts, and music, which is the arts, got a job in electronics. And all my closest friends had the same response. But you don't know anything about electronics. But again, I always went back to the one thing I can do is research. So I thought, well, for that job, I did the research to pass the test and get the job. And so God provided a job. So I packed it up and moved back to the Detroit area.
And then you met your wife, Laura, here.
And that's another fun part of the story. So I moved back here, was back only a few months. And Laura and I went to high school together at that Christian high school. And she felt the same way I did. She loved it there. She thrived there. And we knew each other really well. So we were valedictorian and salutatorian. And she's still...
Hold on.
Yes.
So who is valedictorian and who is salutatorian?
Well, let's just say my wife still disputes the final count.
Oh.
And we were president and vice president of our senior class.
Oh man, power couple.
Yeah. So we worked together knew each other, were on committees together, and so we knew each other really well. But she was already dating a guy, and so we never dated or anything. But unbeknownst to me, she had been through a similar circumstance. Her husband had had an affair that led to a divorce after a year and a half or more. And so she was divorced. She had 3 kids, 3 daughters, 2 12-year-olds and a 5-year-old. No, 7 years old, 5 years difference. Twins were 12 and a 7-year-old when we met, when I got back here from Detroit, to Detroit. And so we were blessed. We connected, and we realized where we had been, and that I saw her love for the Lord and who she was as a person. And so we were married when I got back here.
So even though you both, with all your Christian upbringing, you still had to experience some junk in this world.
Oh, yeah.
Of brokenness and broken relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that so many people go through. I mean, I just think of how many you were not only thrust back into Detroit, this job in electronics, all of this, but now you're thrust into fatherhood.
Yep.
You're thrust into going from a bachelor on his own, figuring out life, to now married with 3 kids. That is a lot of change happening.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Going on.
Yeah.
But now looking a few years, several years later, it's amazing because I see it in both you and Laura. There's still a passion to serve the Lord. There's a passion to live for him. And so where's that fire coming from? Is it coming from what you saw him doing all of that? Is it how you've seen him through time? Where's that fire and that passion?
I have to say, I think for both of us, there was a real depth in our relationship with the Lord. I mean, it was really real. Neither one of us wanted the divorce. Both of us fought to save even a difficult marriage, and it didn't work. And there again, there's that sense of loss and things that you never wanted. And, we could have said it's not fair. And I remember my dad calling many times and said, well, I'm really proud of how you're handling this. And honestly, I never thought about it. It's like I hear about people that, oh man, if God's going to treat me this way, they walk away from the Lord. And I think part of that was what I had learned in college, what I learned about God. And I thought about his sovereignty, and I thought about his love, and I thought about all those things while I was going through that. And even though I didn't understand it all, and I didn't know where it was going to lead, that's where I thought. I said, God, I remember thinking one time when I was working in my second job, I said, God's up to something. I have no idea where it is or where I'm going to land, but God is up to something. And same with Laura. Laura said her family was praying, another one of those moments. They were praying, they prayed specifically that God would send someone to Laura. So.
And he sent you.
And I landed here in Detroit. So God did that. So the passion, and I still had that passion for the word. And I thought, how can I use that? Where can I use that? And so I had to figure out a job. But in the meantime, I said, what can I do with this? And so back in Detroit, got my feet on the ground, and I heard that Cornerstone University over in Grand Rapids was going to do something local. So I actually met with the director when they were setting it all up. And I talked to him about it. I threw out there that I was divorced, and he said, let me check into that. And he said, you know what? We've worked through that, and happy to have you, which was the first positive thing I'd had since all the other years after leaving Pensacola.
That's one of those things where I feel like church doctrine gets a little messy because churches land in different places when it comes to divorce, right? And I remember the conversations we were having as a church when we were saying, well, Don, he's the perfect fit for an elder. There's like some people would raise their hand and they'd be, but he's divorced. Yeah. And I think sometimes that defines so many people is that one thing, but he's divorced.
Yeah.
And we wrestled through the scriptures. I remember that and being like, why is that an issue?
Yeah.
And we just looked and we said, the Bible says that he should be a man of one wife. And we looked and we said, look at Don's life. He's faithful. He's been faithful. This was something that he didn't even ask for. It wasn't something that he was trying to control. And we said, we believe he meets these qualifications for an elder. But I know there's so many people that they have a heart and a desire to serve in ministry. But for that reason, it defines them. Yeah. And I think that's, I don't know what your thoughts are, Andrew, but that's one of my pet peeves with the church is we get so dogmatic about things like that I find that hard to make these hard stances of how many people do we disqualify from ministry because of past, when Christ doesn't disqualify me because of my past, but he forgives me,
Yeah, it's a weird, because obviously I know Don's story with him being my father-in-law. But again, we also have similar backgrounds for church and upbringing. So there's some of that stuff. So, churches strive so hard to be faithful, to which we always talk about, we take the Bible literally. Probably a better term is to take it naturally. Because again, there are churches and pastors who are saying, all right, literally, this is what God's requirements are. And they hold to it. And they're like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't fit with some of this other stuff. But they'll hold to it because, again, they're trying to be faithful. So we want to be gracious with them.
But yet I struggle because the Bible's clear that if your spouse passes away, it's okay to remarry.
Yeah. And we're also okay with if you are, one becomes a believer, one is an unbeliever, they can leave if they don't want to be married to you anymore. Yeah, we're kind of fast and loose and cherry pick what we really want to apply with stuff. I know Michael and I were talking earlier, and I was kind of running down some of this with him. And he had that sound of, well, what are you talking about?
Sometimes I think church is just dumb sometimes. That's a good way to put it. For real. I mean, we get stuck on this like bureaucracy. I am definitely like I grew up knowing about Jesus, but I had no interest in really kind of following him until I got desperate in life. So I skipped a lot of this, like, I don't know, polite way, like church indoctrination, right?
You and me both, brother.
Right. So like, I didn't have any of that. Like, people make jokes about purity culture with churches and stuff like that. You go to Bible college, pushed off to get married because you got to get married right away, right? I never dealt with any of that. When it comes to like stuff like that, it blows my mind because I'm a person that has committed a lot of sins and a lot of really, really bad things in my life, and I'm forgiven. I'm allowed to move forward. If there's something that happens, especially if it's on a situation like yours, right? I think it should be hey, this is something that's happened. Let's talk about it and let's see where your character is, right? Yeah. It's almost legalistic if you're just like, shut the door, you're done. Yeah. And that's...
But don't you think that's what turns people off from church so often?
100%.
They're worried about the black and white rules, and that's why we say we're a church of all stories and backgrounds, because I bet people from our church who maybe are watching or listening to this probably never knew that side of Don. And some of them might be like, wait, he's an elder at this church? And if you're having questions or concerns, my door is open. I would love to talk to you about that. Because I look at what Don does for the kingdom, and it's amazing, but how much of that could be held back because we're so legalistic about things. Now, that's not to say that the church shouldn't be careful of protecting its doctrine, where the Bible's very clear about that and our understanding. But the big debate becomes, what is pure doctrine, right? Yeah. And I think that's where this topic alone becomes a tricky one.
Well, the thing too is, with churches and the kind of background we had with the different churches we were in more of that, I was the indie fundy culture of things, which again, I have no ill will towards at all. I'm like, Don, I loved my Christian high school experience. I loved my Christian college experience. I don't dog on any of it. Yep. And I'll praise it for what's good about it. And I'll, tease on it and elbow it for the things it doesn't do. But the challenge you have with the leadership culture with it is you're holding pastors and church leaders to a standard of perfection. And if you fall short of it, you can be disqualified and cast out. Whereas, in sometimes, the idea is to have grace. So if somebody has a major life sinful failing that they refuse to repent of, the fear is they don't want to lose their leadership status, and their role is saying, hey, because again, how many stories have you heard of? Pastor is a real big popular pastor. All of a sudden he announces, I just want to spend some more time with my family. A year or two later, you hear, oh, actually he's divorced. He's moved out of state and he's starting a new church with a new family. And people struggle with that.
But that's a valid struggle though, right? Like, I get that, because I believe that church leaders are to be held to a higher standard, especially. And so I don't want to take it and say, well, we can't take it seriously. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm looking at it, I'm just saying, man, like, how often can we just look through such tunnel vision that we forget about the grace, the mercy, and the goodness of God? I mean, God redeemed both you and Laura. God gave you a new story. He redefined you. And I know just from our church how many people walk through our doors and they've been divorced. Maybe not just one time, but 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are they redeemable? Are they able to be a part of God's kingdom? And the answer is absolutely yes. Yeah. I think of the woman who comes to Jesus, and I mean, he's like, how many wives have you had? No, you haven't had just 3 or 4, but you had 5 wives or 5 husbands, not wives. 5 husbands. That would change the story. 5 husbands, right? I mean, how many times do we see that? And what does God do to this woman at the well? He redeems her. Yeah. And I just think that's so cool that he's using you. And so speaking of using you, you're currently using your teaching.
Yes.
Here at Fellowship, because we started something called the Fellowship Bible Institute, and you're really the one behind it. So share a little bit about the Fellowship Bible Institute, what you're doing, what it's about.
Well, first of all, you kind of initiated the idea, and I was happy to run with it. So I just took a lot of what I've experienced. Again, what was so good for me as a young college student is like, okay, what do we need with the Bible? And it's not rocket science, but it's like, okay, somebody take you through the Bible. So survey of the Old Testament, walk you through the Old Testament, what's there. Big flyover. New Testament, let's do a flyover there. What's going on in the New Testament? Bible doctrine, what do we believe? And you can go in deep or not, but at least you got to start somewhere and talk about what we believe and why. And so I just started putting the pieces together of what are some things that we can study together. And the timing was right for us. I mean, we do community groups, which are more relational, and they're great. But several people were asking for more. I mean, they wanted something deeper, and I thought, we know how to do this. We could go there. So,
out of curiosity, what was your PhD in again?
Biblical studies.
Which was?
All of the Bible.
So it was basically teaching how to set up Bible curriculum kind of things, right?
Well, now, most people don't know this, but when you get a PhD, when you get a bachelor's, you have a major and a minor. When you have a PhD, you really focus on something. Your dissertation is on something very narrow in the topic. But at least from my experience, we were required to take 1 or 2 unrelated classes. So my PhD was in Bible, but it was like, do something. What else could you take that's kind of related? And I thought, for me, I want education. So in my PhD program, I took several education courses.
Okay.
And so that was the perfect mesh for me. So my PhD was not in that, but it was in biblical studies, tried to have a well-rounded, all areas of, so I had Hebrew and Greek and like I said, archaeology and other things like that. And then I supplemented that with education because that's what I had a passion to do with it. So I did. And part of my experience was being an associate pastor and in a smaller church. And it was basically, I was the church education director, oversaw the curriculum, trained the teachers. I mean, I did all that in a church setting as well as teaching in college.
So we started the Fellowship Bible Institute, and you've really been the one championing it, kind of putting it all together. I remember we met, and it was like, okay, long story short, this is for anyone who's maybe in ministry or leadership. I believe sometimes God gives you a vision for something, and then you find the right people to execute that vision. Right. And so that's where it was like, okay, we have a hunger for more of God's word, digging deep, understanding, even the place of what if the church were to face some persecution? What if the church were to face people trying to shut the doors? What would we do? We would double down on our teaching. And so what if there were no Bible colleges? What if we didn't have the freedoms that we have right now? What would we do? We would have our own Bible college. And so we looked at our church and we said, well, we have seminary trained elders and leaders, and so let's start our own Bible college. It's not accredited. It has no diploma to offer you, but hey, let's do it. And so you ran with it and you put it together. And what does that look like? Like, what did we put together? Maybe someone's watching and they're just going to be like, oh, maybe I should take this back to my church, or I should share this idea with my pastor or something. What is it that we put together?
So we're doing, what do you call them? Trimesters. So we do one in the fall, one in the winter, one in the spring, probably 10 to 12 weeks for each one. And we just take a group through and sign up for classes, and people sign up, can take that course, take a break for Christmas. We're in the winter session right now. I'm teaching how to study the Bible, which is one of my favorite things to do. And we're going to go for 10 weeks and take a break for a week or two, and then one more session, and then take a break for the summer. So, and right now we've got about 3 years worth of classes to do, some basics about the Bible, a little bit about ministry. I think church history gives us perspective. I think today apologetics is an absolute must. I really got that bug just a few years ago, but it's like the culture we live in. We need to know what we believe, but we need to be able to explain why and know enough to have some confidence, even if we can't articulate how we can defend everything we know about the Bible and how its inspiration and authenticity and reliability. And we know about Christ and his death and resurrection. And so I think that's critical. So we put those pieces together.
Yeah, what I love is you teach one class a year of the 3.
Yep.
You've recruited me to teach one class a year of the 3, and then we have rotating elders that teach the other classes. And so it's cool because it gives everyone that much prep time. So right now I know our elder who's going to be teaching the Old Testament survey next. He's had months to prepare, figure out exactly what he wants to do, because that's the hard part. I think people don't give teachers enough credit. When I taught that first spiritual formation class, I went in like, oh, I could do this maybe. And then I'm like, man, there is a lot of prep that goes in.
It's a different gift than preaching.
Oh my goodness, it is. I'm like, I don't know, this is me. Don, you want to teach? Come on.
I will say this, though. I definitely feel like you guys are kind of underselling it a little bit. As a participant in the FBI, I feel like it's the floodgates opening up. I mean, in such a good way where you guys kind of funnel it down. There's a lot of information and stuff like that. And you're not just sitting there saying, this is what this means and this is what that means, which would be great and all, but you're saying this is how you get to understand what this means. And like, it's a completely different shift than doing like a community group or a Bible study or anything like that, right? In case anybody's confused by what we mean by the FBI, but you're giving us tools and equipping us. Essentially, to me, it feels like I'm equipping you to go out. That's kind of what the FBI is to me.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It is. It's leadership development. It's getting you to understand the Bible deeper and understand why we believe what we believe. Because the one thing that as a church, I know for me personally, like what I'm passionate about is us not just making doctrine little soldiers that go out and can repeat, oh, I read this systematic book and I can repeat it or believe it or whatever, but making people who own their faith and know why they own their faith. And if they're in a conversation, whether it's at a family function or in their neighborhood or somewhere, and someone asks them why you believe what you believe, they can confidently say it on their own and not, well, my pastor told me.
Yeah.
But no, I believe it because of this. So, yeah.
But that's the difference between being like a sheep to a shepherd. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously we have Jesus as the shepherd, but there's under shepherds and things like that. And I feel like that's the difference. Like you could be the sheep that comes to church every Sunday and, you know, read your Bible at home, things like that. Or you can start diving deeper, start getting mentorship, start becoming like a disciple, things like that, and equipping to go out. Because it's not only like, hey, here's the knowledge, but it's also like building the confidence with some of the exercises and stuff we do in the class to be able to go out and talk and things like that, you know? It's like, again, it's not anything like a community group. It's not anything like a Bible study. It's like training. It really is. It's training and equipping to go out.
And I love writing the papers. The papers are the best part.
Hey, discipline's the fruit of the Spirit.
Robert, you asked about passion. One of my passions has always been, I love the college atmosphere. So I love what we're doing here. I love that the classroom setting. And I'm wandering a bit now. One of my passions is application. So as much as I was a college prof, it was not just academic. Always about application. It's part of who I am. I have to say that. I was on the phone with a buddy of mine who's still teaching at Pensacola, and one of my best lifelong friends. And I told him that, and he said, Don, that is not me. He said, I was the guy looking for all the pieces, and he says, I have to work at application. And I look back at it and say, maybe that's why we were such good friends, that complimenting each other kind of thing. But so classroom or not, I'm all about application. The other passion for me, and I loved being in college and teaching there, but I always have thought for the people in church who didn't go to the Christian high school like I did, and don't go to Christian college where all the lights were going on for me all the time, where are they going to get it? And so for you to say, let's just start doing this here at Fellowship, that we need this. These people haven't had the chance. Michael, he didn't go to college and get New Testament survey and Old Testament survey and carry around those little cards that we memorize in Bible doctrines and all that. So he gets to do that now. And yeah, he doesn't get a degree, but
it's for the low cost of free 99. We charge $0.
Buy the books and show up. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
But you gotta write the papers, man.
Hey,
You gotta write the papers.
I think I'm going to be known as like the paper writing.
Oh, the papers. The changing your routine to write the papers, and then you're like, then the silliest part. That's the hardest part is, okay, when you turn this in, and if you turn to like English class in college, you don't want to plagiarize, so you want to notarize right. But it's also like, okay, you're writing it like, okay, wait a minute. I got to put that in quotes, I guess. And where did I get that from? I read that from somewhere. Where did I get that at?
Yes.
So a lot of I'm doing like the C.S. Lewis line, like, yeah, I'm documenting if I remember. If not, I'm just saying I got this from somewhere.
See, the hardest part for me is I have like that Marine Corps mentality of you tell me to do it like this, I'll do it like that until I can't do it like that anymore. Yeah. And in your class, Robert, it was like, I don't want to give you a lot of direction on it. And I'm like, no, please give me direction.
You can go any direction you want.
Yeah.
Well, that
But
was
if I don't like what you get, I'm going to criticize you. All right.
It was spiritual formation. I can't force you to tell me your spiritual journey must be this way.
Yeah.
Right. But
tell me what the right answer is and I'll give it to you. I promise, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so now FBI, or I'm calling it Bible Institute whenever I'm referring to it, just because some people aren't biggest fans of the FBI. And so, or it's confusing to hear when you say FBI.
Right.
So in-house, FBI, outside of here, Bible Institute.
Yes.
Okay, we're laying down a really good framework for it. I mean, it's establishing a culture, kind of us planting a flag here in the community of this is who we are, this is what we're doing.
Yep.
All right, not going to hold you to it. Where do you both? What impact do you think you can see it have in the church? What impact do you think you can have in the community? What do you think it can turn into? And I'm not going to hold you to it if it doesn't happen.
Well, we're starting where we are. We want to impact our people,
Okay.
our leaders, and anybody that wants to jump in and dig deeper.
Because it's a carousel, right? You can jump in at any point and it just keeps spinning.
Yep. Oh, and the other, I meant to say as well, one of my passions is Robert isn't the only minister around here. One of his titles, pastor or minister, we're all supposed to be doing that. And so this is equipping people to not go pastor a church necessarily, though that could happen, or teach in Bible college, but to minister better and to be able to share their faith better and be more solid in who they are as believers. And so that's our goal. So we're starting here and then with a group of people, and I hope that group will grow and it can expand just from there.
Yeah, I remember our first conversation. I said, would it be worth doing for one person? And the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And now to see how many have signed up is absolutely amazing, because you do it for the one and then you realize there's much more than just one that want to be a part of it. And for me, what I would hope to see is just people, as kind of Don was saying, that are confident to go and feel like they are leaders in the kingdom of God. Like they can go out and they can go on the front lines of the battlefield. If they're in a situation and they're like, you know, how often do we get in those situations? Well, let me text my pastor, let me call my pastor. Yeah. But they don't even feel they have to do that. They feel like, you know what? I know. Yeah. And I think that goes so much further in that conversation, because the reality is your friend doesn't care what I think. Your friend cares what you think. And the minute that you own that and you know that and you can say, this is my faith, guess what? Now your friend is one step closer to Jesus. Yeah. And to me, there's nothing more important than all of our friends getting to know Jesus and coming to him. And so Don, thanks for all you do here. Thanks for your time, your effort, your dedication. Tuesday nights always coming up and teaching for hours.
That's right.
And being here. And so thanks for your leadership in the elders here at Fellowship. And I just can't thank you enough. I know I get the privilege of serving with you, and I'm just so grateful for that. Yeah. And thanks for coming on this podcast. So I have one more question, and then maybe if you have one more, Andrew, but you're wearing this Air Force Marathon. So I'm runner. What's going on with that?
It has been for 25 years. Back to that story with Laura, one of our kids ran cross country. And so I didn't want her out running in the dark at night, doing prep in the off season. So I started running with her, and that just started it. I used to run a little bit back in college, but I started running and doing, we call them road races back then. And funny story. So we would run, they would run 3 miles, 5K. And back then you didn't get a medal. You just ran the race, and some of them you get a t-shirt. And so we ran those, ran through cross country, got into college, she did. And so then we went for a little longer race, and then we ran a 10-miler and we got a medal. And she said, forget the t-shirts, man, I want a medal. And so we started going for longer races, and that led to a half marathon. And we did 1 marathon. She's done a couple more, but I did 1. That was plenty. And I kind of settled into half marathons. And so I've been running for 25 years, and my knees have started to bother me, but we're still doing okay. So
guesstimate, how many medals do you have right now? I
think half marathons, I'm in the 30s. And And again, the medals used to be half marathon or 10 milers. And I keep track of those. I think those are 30, 40. But now I have dozens more than that because you get one for everything you run nowadays. So I've done lots of 10Ks and 5Ks. So I really am not sure.
Well, that's awesome.
I'm blessed to do it.
Well, thank you, Don.
Thank you very much. All right, give us your last sales pitch. Why should people join the Fellowship Bible Institute? Give us your best sales pitch.
Wow.
Or why should they start one at their church?
Yes.
Oh, well, start one at your church. Number one, take the opportunity to be in a classroom and help people with those basics, the most important pieces of what they believe, and digging a little deeper, and a passion for studying the Word. And so join us for that. And if you're a pastor and you want to do that at your church, that is worth the investment into those people. Robert, I remember that first conversation, and you said, statistically, I think we'll have 3. And so we were ready to start with a group of 3. And so I would do it. Again, it's a very intimate, but you can dig deeper together.
Yeah, we're not a mega church. We're not a big church.
Yeah.
We're your average church, right? And so if we can do it, I believe anyone can. And so maybe that's you. I would encourage you, just give us a comment, even message us. You can send us an email at info@fellowshipchapel.net, and I'll personally get in touch with you. We believe in giving away stuff. We don't want to hold on to anything. It's all kingdom focused. So we'll help resource you. Anything you need, you let us know, and we would love to help you with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
To help.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you for joining us here for the episode of the For You podcast. If you could, give us a subscribe and a like. It helps this podcast get out to other people. And luckily, we are now both video and audio. So you can listen to this while you're running your half marathons, or you can watch it while you're sitting on your laptop or your couch watching YouTube. So we'll see you next time.